Well, since January 2015, the French anti-terrorist security program has been at the highest level, meaning that an attack is highly likely. France is a prime target for Islamist terrorists, not only because it's a key player in the global fight against terrorism, but also because it's home to the largest population of Muslims in Europe. Now, since the Charlie Hebdo attacks in January 2015, according to the government, another 5 imminent attacks have been prevented. Now, one of the main challenges for the security services is that the profile of terrorists and prospective terrorists is becoming increasingly diverse. On the one hand, you have individuals who are young and impressionable, specifically those with particular grievances who are being targeted by recruitment networks operating across the country. On the other hand, we also have those who make the shift from crime to terrorism after coming into contact with extremists within prisons. And also we are seeing an increasing number of individuals being radicalized over the internet, given the ease of access to jihadist forums and also the abundance of slick, high production value material glorifying jihad on social media. Now, already we've seen around 1,400 to 1,500 French nationals traveling to Iraq and Syria, although we're now seeing groups such as Islamic State advising their sympathizers to instead conduct attacks closer to home rather than travel to join the conflict in the Middle East. The most likely targets are Jewish individuals and assets, crowded open spaces such as transport hubs and shopping centres, and also security forces, although we may see a shift in target set over the coming year. Now, the Islamic State has thrived on a sectarian narrative in Iraq and Syria and have now begun to target Christians in Libya and also in Egypt in an attempt to trigger sectarian conflict. Now, in April, French police uncovered a plot to attack at least 2 churches in the south of Paris, which may well indicate that this strategy will be reproduced in Europe. It follows the logic that an attack of this sort would trigger retaliatory attacks against Muslim individuals and assets, thus resulting in a spiral of inter-community violence, pitting Muslims against non-Muslims. Security has been up since the Charlie Hebdo attack. In fact, over 10,000 armed personnel have been deployed across the country at particularly sensitive sites. Now, this mitigates the risk to these particular locations, but it does very little to quell the overall threat, given the sheer abundance of potential targets, and it's most probably aimed at mainly reassuring the population. French Parliament recently voted in favour of a new legal framework for its 6 main intelligence agencies, which grants them unprecedented surveillance powers. From now on, internet service providers and telecommunications companies will be forced to install so-called black boxes, which enable the bulk collection of metadata and help to identify suspicious behaviour. The new laws also grant the security services additional powers to conduct targeted surveillance against specific subjects without prior permission from a judge. Crucially, these new powers are being matched by an extra funding of 425 million euros, and they will also be recruiting a further 2,680 new personnel. This is particularly crucial given the fact that in the past there have been individuals who have been on the radar of security services but have nonetheless managed to carry out attacks given the lack of resources for analysis and assessment. France's new counter-terrorism arsenal will certainly bridge the gap between terrorist capabilities and the security services' detection capacities. It will give them a greater chance of detecting plots which involve any degree of coordination between different parties, and will also improve their capacity to detect and also to dismantle recruitment networks. Nonetheless, those who have trained abroad or are being directed by individuals in Iraq, Syria or elsewhere are more likely to have the know-how to circumvent interception techniques by using the latest technologies in communication and also in encryption. Now, The issue here is that technologies of this sort are progressing at such a rate that security services are constantly having to play catch-up in a race that inevitably they can't win. Human intelligence is likely to be a more effective tool in tackling these individuals who are capable of evading detection techniques. As such, an extensive network of informants and also the new hotlines and websites for friends and families to flag signs of radicalization are extremely essential to the security services. The sheer amount of individuals and information of interest means that inevitably some are going to slip through the net. Lone wolves in particular, using low capability weapons such as firearms and blades, are likely to continue to pose the highest threats, given that they operate alone and are therefore harder to detect. They also pose a risk to a wider and less predictable geographical area, given that they tend to strike close to their home. Therefore, overall, we believe that these new capabilities are likely to mitigate the risks of complex attacks and attacks against high-profile targets, but nonetheless, we are likely to see further low-capability attacks against soft targets in the one-year outlook.